In this video, I want to take a look at your options for using a third-party download provider to serve your digital files that you're selling online. Remember our problem? We don't want people to be able to share the link that they get to download their file. We don't want them to share that with other people. A third-party download provider prevents that, plus does some other things, as we'll see. The basic idea here is very much like when we are adding Buy Now buttons from PayPal, for example. You simply get some code from the provider, put it into your site like this, you paste it in, and it provides a Buy Now button. And in this case, the Buy Now button, let's take a look at the flow here. They've got the Buy Now button on your site, right? The customer clicks on that. They're taken directly to a payment processor site, typically, like PayPal or whoever you're using. Then, once the payment transaction goes through, then they're taken to the download provider's site where they get their file, right? They download it from there. Sometimes it'll come in an email, but typically it's on the download provider's site, which you can typically brand. We'll talk more about that. And then when they're successfully finished the download, then they're returned to your site. You might have a thank you page or something else like that at that point. So that's the typical customer flow we're talking about. Now, there are three key factors that are going to affect your costs relating to these third-party providers. I want to show you these first before we look at a few of the providers. First of all, how many products do you have? Quite often their plans are based on that. For example, if you've got one, then you're in a certain tier. If you've got 10, another tier, and so on and so on. So do you have one? Do you have 100? That'll make a difference. What's the size of the files of your products? So for example, is it an ebook, maybe 9 megabytes? Even that's pretty big for an ebook. Or is it a high definition video, 2 gigabytes or 5 gigabytes or something like that? That's going to make a difference too, because you need storage, right? Some of what you pay for is the storage, the level of storage. And then the volume of sales per month. What are you expecting to handle? 100 sales? 1,000 sales? That makes a huge difference, in particular with bandwidth. Bandwidth is the sort of volume of traffic required to serve your files. All of these can be factors affecting the costs, as we'll see shortly. And of course, remember in all of this, we do have the fees of your payment processor, okay? So there's the fees of your download provider. Then there's the fees like PayPal, for example. 2.9% is typical. And then another 30 cents per transaction. Again, plus or minus, depends on the service, but this is very common. So remember, when you're costing this out, you've got to remember there's a payment fee from your payment processor. All right, let's take a quick look at a few of these just to get a feel for them. I'm going to have a list for you in the working files of some of the major download providers, and you can go and take a look at all of them. But I'm showing you the factors here to consider when you're looking at them. Here's one called Quixly, all right? And you can see here some of the things they offer, because it isn't just about the download process. For example, can you brand the page when they come for the download? Can you brand it to at least have your logo or look a bit like your site, for example? Can you customize the email notifications? Sales reporting, all of those sorts of things are very, very important. eJunkie is a long time, one's been around a long time, and they've got a bit of a complex pricing plan, but one of the things they do offer is a lot of add-on features. Things like the ability to offer discounts and so forth, have affiliates, all these kinds of things. Another new one that's come along fairly recently is Digital Delivery App. And this is their pricing plan here. And this gives you a quick sense of sort of what pricing plans involve. Notice here there's a product limit. Remember, I was telling you, think about how many products you might have now or in the future, perhaps. And then it varies by pricing that way. And at the same time, your storage changes. Remember, I was talking about the amount of storage you're going to require. How big are your files? 1 gigabyte, you could put a lot of ebooks on that, but you probably couldn't even fit a single video. So there's a big difference of what you're going to need. By the way, let me go back to eJunkie here just for a moment, and you'll see what I mean by their complicated pricing plan. Ignore the gray bars. The gray bars, they don't really explain it till you get down here, but the gray bars all have to do with selling tangible physical products. So we'll just look at the others here. I mean, look at the storage space. For their $5 plan, okay, $5 isn't much per month, but you only get 50 megabytes of storage. You could put a couple of ebooks on there, a few ebooks on there, but that's very different from 1 gigabyte on the basic plan here. So again, you've got to make sure you're comparing apples to apples when you're looking at these. Payloads is a long-time player in this field, one of the higher priced ones. They've got, for example, a 5% and 49-cent transaction fee. So that's on top of PayPal, don't forget. Plus, there's a base rate of $14.95 a month. Fairly expensive from that standpoint. So that's definitely one to keep an eye out for. All right, let's go over these again. Key features to look for, and this is becoming more popular now. That is no bandwidth fees, or at the very least have very high bandwidth. In other words, you shouldn't get charged, if you can help it, for how much people download. That way, you're not worrying about how many sales you're going to make in a month. You don't want per transaction fees, all right? You're already paying per transaction fees with your payment processor, like PayPal or something. Ability to have lots of storage, or, and you quite often see this, the ability to self-host your files. So for example, you could get an inexpensive hosting account, like $5 a month or something like that, and host all of your files on there yourself. Then you're not worrying about storage or bandwidth or anything like that, because it's all going through that hosting account that you've set up. Okay, so that's an interesting one, ability to self-host files. And of course, multiple payment gateway options. All right, you don't want to be tied to just one if you can help it. So those are some key features to look for. And remember, it's more than just protecting the files and the pricing of the service. Can you integrate with your mailing list? That's a very important one these days. So they finish the sale, can their information be automatically taken and put over to your mailing list, like Aweber or MailChimp or something like that? Ability to offer coupons and discounts, again, very, very important these days when you're doing your marketing. Comprehensive and easy-to-use sales reporting, that's very useful to have with these third-party providers. And finally, using your own branding. I think that's really important so that the experience of the customer is they're still on your site, it feels like, right? Except they're actually over on this third-party site. So those are a number of the things you should be considering when you're looking at a third-party download provider.